Imagine being handed a clipboard and just being told you have exactly 14 days to select 8 people out of 8 billion to survive the end of the world.
Right. That's an unimaginable burden.
Yeah, like how do you even begin to do the math on a human soul? I mean, do you pick the top surgeons and engineers?
Naturally, that's what you'd think.
Exactly. Do you filter for, genetic diversity? Or do you look for something entirely invisible?
And that right there is the central, impossible question driving the narrative landscape we are exploring today.
It really is.
What makes this particular story so compelling, I think, is that it completely abandons the traditional, hardware-focused mechanics of survival.
Yeah.
There is no montage of scientists building a massive spaceship here.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are stepping into the world of a feature film script titled Angel Leo, The Last Judgment.
Yes.
And our mission for you today is a contemplative, analytical exploration of the narrative arc and the thematic depths of this material.
We've got some great sources to pull from, too.
We do. We are working from a stack of industry documents, the film's treatment, which is essentially a prose blueprint of the story, along with detailed scene lists and some incredibly revealing studio script feedback notes.
The premise itself centers on a character named Leo.
Right.
He's this exhausted everyman who is miraculously saved from a car crash and transformed into a divine messenger.
Which is quite the career change.
Definitely. And he receives that exact terrifying mandate, right? An asteroid is coming, and he must select exactly 8 souls to seed a new existence.
But rather than just like walking you through this plot point by point, we really want to act as film analysts today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to look at how the writers use striking visual language, specifically the contrast between a gritty, decaying modern world and the terrifying luminosity of divine intervention.
Super stark.
Yeah, and we will break down the psychological weight of Leo's selection process, the structural purpose of these apocalyptic vignettes, and a profound theological twist the script makes to the classic Garden of Eden myth at the end.
To really understand the impact of Leo's transformation, we have to examine the baseline reality the screenwriters establish first.
Right, the before picture.
Exactly. The script feedback specifically highlights the desaturated look of the first act. The modern world is painted in these grueling, almost monochromatic tones.
It's a brilliant technique for externalizing an internal state, A filmmaker has to physically show us a soul running on empty.
Right, you can't just have him say he's tired.
No, and the treatment does this so well by opening on a desolate stretch of road. Leo is driving this dusty, peeling car.
Oh, the detail at the windshield.
Yes, someone has literally dragged their finger through the grime on the back windshield to write, "Wash me." It's so visceral. He's fighting sleep, reaching for cold coffee. The environment itself just feels spiritually and physically drained.
And that environmental decay really sets the stage for the inciting incident. Because Leo falls asleep, his car careens down a steep embankment, and the visual language of the film just violently ruptures.
It's a complete 180.
It is. He survives, climbs from the wreckage, and witnesses this massive blood moon that transforms into a perfect black disk ringed with fire.
The eclipse bathes the entire scene in this otherworldly crimson glow. And a voice simply tells him, "I have chosen you."
Just like that.
Yeah. I look at this transition as sort of the cinematic inverse of The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Because we're so used to characters leaving a drab reality to enter a vibrant, colorful fantasy, right?
Yeah, the sepia to technicolor shift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here, the bleak, washed-out reality is humanity's baseline, and the divine intervention is this jarring, almost violent burst of high-definition technicolor, just bleeding right into the gray. It's a total optical shock to the audience.
And that optical shock totally translates to a somatic shock for Leo. The script notes actually praise this ethereal, luminous aesthetic.
Gets it so overwhelming.
Right, because it forces the viewer to feel the sheer weight of grace piercing through the mundane. Leo is surrounded by swirling white papers from his crashed car, bathed in perfect moonlight. Yeah, it's a sensory overload that bestows purpose on a man who had completely lost his compass.
But, purpose doesn't immediately translate to success. Which brings us to a really crucial theme in the script, the burden of omniscience.
Oh, this part's brutal.
It is. The writers send Leo into the sensory assault of downtown Los Angeles to basically act as God's voice, and he fails spectacularly.
He's just completely ignored.
Totally. He is mocked, he's being filmed by teenagers for social media, and he's just utterly dismissed by the desaturated world.
The visual juxtaposition in that sequence is key, though. You have the thumping music, the flashing advertisements, the sheer volume of human indifference.
It's deafening.
It is. And it pushes Leo into a shattered, narrow alleyway where his true transformation actually occurs. The city noise just cuts out instantly.
Its isolation will be so heavy.
Exactly. And then a shaft of impossibly bright sunlight pierces the gloom and two ancient swords descend. One radiates a warm golden light, which the script designates as judgment, and the other is pure, blinding white, signifying forgiveness.
So I need to push back on the mechanics of this scene, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because as I was reading the treatment, my studio executive brain just started throwing up red flags left and right.
How so?
Well, we have a protagonist reaching for ancient glowing swords, but the script says the swords dissolve into pure light, sink directly into his chest, and then massive wings of light erupt from his back.
Right, they become internal.
Yeah, but he never swings these swords. He doesn't fight demons with them. I mean, if you internalize the primary weapons of your protagonist, how does a director visually portray that for 2 hours without boring the audience? Action movies rely on kinetic movement.
That is the exact friction the writers are playing with, though, and it's why the script feedback actually considers this an elevation of the genre.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it. If Leo pulled the swords out and started hacking at the military, the script just devolves into a generic blockbuster.
Okay, fair point.
By making the swords internal, the narrative shifts from an external action movie to an intense psychological thriller. The swords act as profound, internalized lenses.
So the cinematic challenge becomes showing how Leo sees the world, rather than what he does to it.
Precisely. The director would likely use subjective camera techniques here. The divine voice commands Leo to look with the swords within him.
That's a great line.
It is. So the golden sword of judgment strips away social veneer and reveals humanity's pain and casual cruelty. And the white sword of forgiveness exposes their hidden potential and quiet sacrifices.
Oh, I see.
The visual tension actually comes from watching an actor process the agonizing burden of holding supreme wrath and supreme mercy simultaneously.
That reframes his entire mission, doesn't it? It's not a superpower at all, it's an emotional curse.
Very much so.
He is forced to endure the unbearable pain of truly seeing people for what they are. And that empathy is put to the ultimate test when the ticking clock is introduced, like an asteroid is 2 weeks away and Leo must find his 8 souls.
And the script really tackles the lifeboat ethics trope head on here.
Yes, it does.
We frequently see apocalyptic narratives prioritize utility, who has the skills to rebuild society. But Leo's metrics are entirely different.
The treatment sharply subverts the whole billionaire prepper fantasy.
Oh, the bunker scene?
Yeah. There is a scene where Leo's wings illuminate this luxurious, reinforced underground bunker. A tech CEO and a senator are sitting on stockpiles of golden supplies, arguing that their success means they earn survival.
They view themselves as the architects of tomorrow.
Exactly. And Leo's response to them is just devastatingly simple. He informs them that 15 feet of reinforced concrete cannot keep out what God sends in.
Chills.
Right. He tells them their bunker will simply be their tomb. The script actively rejects wealth, status, and even practical utility as currencies for survival.
Because the only currency that registers through his internal lenses is compassion.
Yeah.
And that feels like an incredibly difficult trait to cast on screen without it coming off as, overly sentimental.
Right. It could easily get cheesy.
Exactly. But the writers anchor it in micro-interactions. Leo uses his omniscience to filter through the noise of the impending panic.
Sorting the good from the bad.
Yeah, the script draws a harsh line between the small cruelties of the collapsing world, like businessmen stepping over bodies just to secure a better vantage point, or looters violently fighting over televisions that literally have no broadcast signal anymore.
Which is so bleak.
It is, but he contrasts that with moments of quiet, unrewarded kindness.
Like the first person he chooses, right?
Yeah.
A teenage girl named Sarah. What strikes me about her selection is that she simply notices him.
Yeah, she pays attention.
In a street full of panic, she stops, looks at the wings in his shadow, and recognizes the divine. And then there's the young couple he selects as the new Adam and Eve.
Their introduction is such a masterclass in establishing character through action.
It really is.
They are stuck in a massive, panicked traffic jam. People are abandoning vehicles, turning on each other, and right in the center of that chaos, this couple is quietly helping an elderly stranger.
Just because it's the right thing to do.
Right. There is no transactional benefit to their action at all. Leo explicitly tells them they are chosen not for perfection, but for potential. The metric is a heart capable of learning.
Which makes the mathematics of his choice incredibly heavy. I mean, to choose 8 people, he has to actively choose not to save millions of others who might be trying their best.
The guilt would be staggering.
Exactly. And this brings us to the script's handling of the apocalypse itself. Often these movies rely on sweeping, wide-angle CGI shots of monuments exploding.
Right, the classic Roland Emmerich stuff.
Exactly. But this script scales the intimacy of disaster through isolated vignettes, which is psychologically far more terrifying.
The macrocosm of the world ending is beautifully reflected in the microcosm of individual realization. The scientists in the script discover the asteroid is accelerating, right? It's defying physical laws.
So there's no stopping it.
Exactly. The inevitability replaces the typical action movie suspense of can we stop it with the existential dread of how do we face it.
There is a really vivid vignette detailed in the scene list involving a news anchor named Sarah Linfield.
Oh, that scene is heartbreaking.
It is. The studio is literally crumbling around her, the primary lights fail, and the red emergency backups kick on.
Yeah.
Everyone else has fled the building. But she stays at the desk to simply bear witness.
She just keeps broadcasting.
Yeah, she looks into the camera and tells her viewers that if these are their final moments together, it has been an honor. The focus isn't on the building collapsing, it's on the human need for connection at the end of all things.
We see that same focus on somatic, quiet dread in the beach scene, too.
With the surfer.
Yeah, a lone surfer stands on the shore. And instead of instantly showing a massive wave, the script builds tension by having the ocean pull back for miles.
Which is an actual tsunami warning sign.
Exactly. The seabed is exposed, littered with flapping fish. The silence of the retreating tide creates an unbearable psychological weight before the wall of water, which is hundreds of feet high, finally crests the horizon to obliterate the coastline.
But the most profound moment of the apocalypse, and the one the script feedback highlights as the actual emotional climax of the film, occurs in a ruined city square.
Right.
It tackles the concept of last-minute redemption.
It's the confession circle. Just before the impact, amidst all this burning rubble, a group of survivors form a circle. They light candles and begin openly confessing their deepest sins to one another.
Just laying it all out there.
Yeah. A woman admits to a lifetime of theft and deceit. A man confesses to abandoning his family decades ago. It is a raw, genuine display of community and repentance in the face of absolute annihilation.
And Leo is standing in the shadows observing this with his internal swords.
Weighing them.
Right. The teenage girl, Sarah, watches this beautiful display of humanity and asks him if any of them could be worthy. Leo looks at them with immense sorrow and delivers a line that just entirely removes the safety net of the genre. He says, "It's too late. We have our 8.
The finality of that statement is chilling.
It really is.
The script denies the audience the comfort of cheap grace. A realization at the very end does not undo the mechanics of judgment.
No last-minute saves.
Dope. The door to the lifeboat is sealed, forcing you, as the viewer, to sit with the inescapable weight of consequence.
And the visual transition that follows this destruction is really the payoff for the bleak, desaturated opening we discussed earlier.
The flood.
Right. The global tsunami washes the old world away. Leo projects a translucent dome of golden energy over a mountain peak, protecting his micro-society of 8 while the waters rage around them.
And when those waters recede, the aesthetic of the film locks into its final state, the new Eden.
It sounds visually stunning.
It really does. The script dictates a hyper-vibrant palette. The mud instantly sprouts lush, vivid vegetation. The streams run crystal clear. We see predators and prey coexisting like children petting lions that react like docile house cats.
Wow.
The world is entirely purged of the visual and spiritual corruption of the first act.
But to ensure that pristine state remains, the writers introduce a massive, deliberate theological subversion in the final pages.
This is the part that really got me thinking.
Me too. The teen girl, acting basically as the audience surrogate, recognizes the parallels to the biblical Garden of Eden. She looks around the vibrant paradise and asks Leo about the original story having 2 trees.
And Leo's response shifts the entire thematic foundation of the narrative.
What does he say again?
He confirms the tree of life is present, but explicitly states that the tree of knowledge of good and evil will not be part of this new world. He tells her that choice has been made.
Man. By deleting the tree of knowledge, the script literally removes the source code of human sin. There is no forbidden fruit. There is no test to fail.
The implications of that omission are staggering. I mean, the classic Eden myth operates as a cycle of inevitable failure. Humanity's nature always leads to a fall.
Right, it's inevitable.
But by removing the catalyst, the script dictates a state of permanent grace. The divine intervention didn't just reboot humanity, it fundamentally altered the parameters of human existence so that the old world's corruption can never sneak back in.
It's a fascinating rewrite of a foundational myth, and it really brings us to the end of our analysis. We have tracked a narrative that takes an exhausted man in a decaying, desaturated reality and forces him to internalize the paralyzing weight of supreme empathy.
A huge burden.
Yeah. We explored how the script uses the invisible swords of judgment and forgiveness not to wage physical war, but to measure the quiet cruelties and hidden kindnesses of a doomed population.
The narrative just strips away the comfort of technological salvation. It bypasses the billionaires and their concrete bunkers to focus on the intimate, terrifying moments of bearing witness to the end.
And the devastating finality when the time for redemption simply runs out. As you process all of this, put yourself in the center of that narrative. If you were standing on that gridlocked highway or in that burning city square, stripped of your routines, your status, and your wealth, in the face of the absolute end. Wait, no, let me rephrase that. When facing the absolute end, what would Leo's internal lenses reveal about you?
That's a heavy question.
Under the unbearable glare of absolute judgment and absolute forgiveness, would your instinct be self-preservation or a quiet act of kindness?
The script demands that self-reflection, really making the impending disaster not just a cinematic spectacle, but a mirror for the audience.
And we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over regarding that closing twist. If the architecture of this new Eden completely lacks the tree of knowledge of good and evil, do those 8 surviving humans actually possess free will?
Oh, that's a great point.
If they are stripped of the capacity to choose wrong, is their goodness still meaningful? Or has humanity simply been reduced to innocent, well-behaved pets in a divine, disaster-proof terrarium? Something for you to consider the next time you look up at the night sky.